This roller coaster was so ahead of its time that it caused Alton Towers all kinds of problems. And I'll tell you for why and how. Welcome back, you legends. Today we are going to talk about Galactica at Alton Towers, everyone's favourite UK flying coaster. Yes, take that, hero, you gross piece of scrap. Get out of here. And if any of you watching prefer this rubbish, you need time to reflect. Probably not the best idea to abuse the audience in the opener. Anyway, you are probably thinking, why review Galactica now? The ride originally opened in 2002. The reason why I wanted to review Galactica, or Air, or whatever it'll be called once it gets the inevitable phalanx treatment, is that Galactica, as we know it, seems to be the next Alton Towers ride to get an upgrade. Or at least I'd hope so, because if I was Galactica, I'd feel really unloved if everything else got an upgrade and I was just left to rot. But with a retheme for Galactica being very heavily speculated, I thought, why not take the opportunity to review the coaster, talk about the history of the ride, and touch upon the future of it. And you probably know what I'm about to say. I say it in every video, but if you do go on to enjoy this content, please do consider subscribing. Any support really means a lot. Still can't believe the channel's on more than 4K now. It's crazy. Now that's done, prepare to fly.
Fly, you fools.
So beginning with a bit of history, and for the initial conception of Air, we do need to go all the way back to 1994, when John Wardley had the idea of building a roller coaster simulating the sensation of flight. And back then, the creation of Air was cited as the park's most challenging project to date, and it took 7 years before technology had advanced far enough to fulfill John Wardley's vision. And those 7 years brings us to 2001, when construction of Air, at the time codenamed Secret Weapon 5, began construction on the site of the former New Beast at the bottom of the Forbidden Valley.
They're flying!
And after a lot of expensive innovation, alongside the manufacturer B&M, also known as Bolliger and Mabillard, Air would complete construction and finally open to the public in March 2002, opening at Alton Towers as the third secret weapon to actually operate. Not the best delivery, I'll admit. Anyway, Air would open as the third secret weapon to actually operate at the park, after the first one being Nemesis in 1994 and then Oblivion opening in 1998. And this roller coaster, situated next to Nemesis, thematically juxtaposed the foreboding beast as a welcoming oasis. And I think it was ironically sponsored by Heroes at one point. Might need to fact check that though. But then to conclude the brief history of Air, the prototype B&M flying coaster, it operated from 2002 through to 2015, when it then got a bit of a retheme, became Galactica, and returned in 2016 with a bit of virtual reality. You now not only flew around, but you had to wear these goggles that made it look like, at least from your perspective, that you were flying through space. That only lasted 2 years though. Now, review time. And to recap, my rating system is based on statistics, theming, my personal highlights, and negatives, all coming together to give a final rating of... And actually, I've got a bit of a wacky rating system, so I'll also recap on that right now, which is as followed. Hopefully it's on the screen right now. Legendary being the best rating a roller coaster can get, and piece of scrap being the worst. So let's first look at some statistics on RCDB. I probably should have got this ready before filming the video, but let's read it off the screen. Here we go. Track length, 2,755.9 feet. Again, Alton Towers do not like round numbers. More proof here. Height, 65.6 feet. Trees were probably 66. Speed, 46.6 miles per hour. Inversions 2. And I argue that the first inversion is probably the world's longest stall, because you fly to lie. Basically, you do half a corkscrew and you zoom around like this on your back, sleeping, looking at the sky, and then you just flip back over like a stool. And the ride duration's 1 minute 40, so a pretty decent duration, in my opinion. What's next? Theming, and this is where it gets interesting because originally in 2002, the theming around Air was meant to be a utopian oasis consisting of rockwork and waterfalls and a lot of elaborate landscaping to make it seem like a paradise. And then riders were supposed to glide by these waterfalls so gracefully like a bird over the ocean. But then budget cuts meant that we got nothing. In 2016 it was then rethemed to Galactica, where we did get some theming. We got a piece of theming, that ring, also known as the portal that the ride goes through. And well, on ride, you never saw that big portal because you wore goggles. For 2 years anyway, because in 2018, they got rid of the virtual reality and it just became air plus that big hole you go through. Didn't like that. Highlights. Oh, can you hear that wind? Sounds like I'm about to get blown away.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
My highlights for Air Galactic Air, is that the ride is very smooth. It glides by quite gracefully near the ground, and the low to the ground elements really make you feel like you're actually flying. And though it's not the fastest roller coaster in the world, the passing speed does make you feel like you've got more velocity. Glad it's not more Hero though. Stinky ride. But yeah, I do feel like out of all of the flying coasters I've done, this one simulates flight the most. Though as a human that famously can't fly, I don't really think I'm qualified to do that. Better call my local pigeon. Negatives, not many negatives for the ride. Air was the prototype B&M flying coaster, so very innovative. Again, as expected, the ride system has developed and improved over the years. 22 years, you'd expect something to do better. But Air does hold up quite well, though it is ugly and doesn't fit the theme of the Forbidden Valley. Unless, of course, the Phalanx Expo has anything to say about it. So the Alton Towers fireworks happened to conclude the 2024 season, and it all revolved around the Phalanx Expo, linking Nemesis and the Valley to space. What else is space? Galactica. Why did I never make that link? Might as well just leave now. Looking into the theming around the Phalanx Expo, a lot of the logos were looking reminiscent of Galactica, heavily indicating that the ride is due a retheme imminently. Why else would they use the same stylization as they used for Galactica for the Phalanx Expo, other than to get us speculating? And they wouldn't want to prank us, would they? Though closure of the ride for a retheme hasn't been announced yet, I'd be very surprised if it didn't get the Phalanx treatment either sometime next year in 2025 or the following year in 2026, sometime after they open the Submit to the Spin ride. Or toxic conclusion, bringing it all back round to the review. Though there are far more themed, thrilling and statistically impressive flying coasters out there, this still stands out as one of my personal favourites, as the more modest layout, more focused on low to the ground swooping elements rather than those crazy pretzel loops you get that make you grey out. As in my opinion, I think that replicates flight more closely. It's very rare that you'll see a seagull just flipping around like a nutcase. And though the theming is very outdated, the roller coaster itself is not, in my opinion, and so I give it a final grade of good. No bias required. Not just saying it because we're mates. Let me know in the comments below your opinion on Galactica or Air. Thanks so much for watching. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Ciao, legends.
That was good, wasn't it? Please, sir, can we have some more? You don't have to call me sir. But here's your link. Click it. Sir Pun a lot would sound cool though.